The Indiana Fever let 106 points get dropped on their heads by the Los Angeles Sparks tonight. Yes, the Los Angeles Sparks. Caitlin Clark does not look good out there. It looks like she's
106 points. Not a typo, and not some historically great Sparks offense either. And Caitlin Clark did not look right for a single second of it.
playing through something. Sophie Cunningham was in and out with back spasms, and with Aaliyah Boston missing, they were utterly destroyed in the paint. Let's dive in.
Two more starters walked in compromised. Sophie Cunningham battled back spasms most of the night, and Aaliyah Boston did not suit up at all. Three key rotation players down before the opening tip, and what happened next is where this game actually turned ugly.
In the paint, they absolutely got destroyed in the paint, 60 points to 38 by the Sparks. And listen, no shade to the Sparks or anything, but the Sparks are sans Cameron Brink, they are sans Kelsey Plum, who has been pretty much their offensive
60 to 38 in the paint. Without Aaliyah Boston anchoring the interior, Indiana's front court got physically overwhelmed by a Sparks team that is, worth repeating, also missing its best player. Kelsey Plum has been the engine of that offense all season, and Cameron Brink was in and out before she ever found a rhythm. This was supposed to be the version of the Sparks that Indiana beats. And stick with me, because the real story tonight is not the final score. It's a question about Caitlin Clark that this recap is going to answer, but not yet.
turnovers in this game. The Indiana Fever turning the ball over 16 times. But listen, the Sparks also turned the ball over 11 times, and it wasn't as if the Sparks were playing incredibly well or anything. It was that Indiana's defense was terrible, and the Sparks were capitalizing on that, because in the beginning of the game, the Sparks were not hitting their shots either. They end
16 turnovers for Indiana, 11 for the Sparks. Close on paper, but not close in what it cost. Los Angeles started the game missing shots just like everyone else, then figured it out and never stopped scoring. Indiana's defense is what let them figure it out. Loose closeouts, blown rotations, live ball turnovers turning directly into transition buckets. This was not one bad quarter. It bled through the entire second half, and it is worth asking whether a team playing three starters at less than full health can ever really play defense with any continuity. Stephanie White did not have a healthy roster to work with tonight, and it showed everywhere except the turnover column, which actually flatters Indiana.
What did they do? Actually, they really took over in the second quarter. They put 27 points to Indiana's 16, and then Indiana did come back, but the Sparks did outscore them in the third, 34 to 30, and then in the fourth quarter, 24 points to 21. But the fourth quarter really.
Break it down by quarter, and the story gets worse. Los Angeles took the second quarter 27 to 16, an 11-point swing in a single period. Indiana actually won the fourth quarter, 24 to 21, which tells you the effort was there late. But you cannot spot a team 11 points in one quarter and then chip away 1 point at a time and expect to survive it. Add up the final numbers, and the Sparks won it 106 to 92, 14 points. And if you're doing the math already, hold that 14-point number, because it is about to show up again in a way that is not a coincidence.
Is because of the points conceded off of those turnovers. And very often, I don't hate all the turnovers that Caitlin Clark does. This time it was everybody. Caitlin Clark herself got 4 turnovers in 16 minutes, but the points conceded off of those turnovers for Indiana was 22 points to the Sparks 8. And Indiana lost this game by, what was it, 14 points? Yeah, 14 points. Wow.
Here it is. 22 points allowed off turnovers for Indiana. 8 points allowed off turnovers for the Sparks. Do that subtraction and you get 14, the exact margin of the final score. Every single point Indiana lost this game by can be traced directly back to live ball giveaways turning into easy buckets on the other end. That is not bad shooting luck. That is a controllable, coachable problem. And on a night where Caitlin Clark was barely playing enough minutes to ever get comfortable running anything, the turnover math becomes the whole ball game. Kelsey Mitchell had a monster shooting night that almost covered for it. Almost. We'll get to her. But first, Let's talk about why nobody could ever find a rhythm out there in the first place.
It up to a lot of those coaching rotations. I don't know what Steph White was thinking with a lot of this stuff. And yes, I know she was put in between a rock and a hard place, having Caitlin like barely in. And when she was in, she was definitely playing through something. I almost think they should have just kept her out for this game, because whatever it is did seem to definitely affect her play style. And she was in for 16 minutes. She scored 9 points.
Caitlin Clark played 16 minutes tonight. 16. She was subbed in and out every few minutes early, on what looked like a hard minutes restriction. And every time Indiana started building something, she was back on the bench. In those 16 minutes, she scored 9 points. Stretch that same rate out to her normal 30-minute workload, and you are looking at close to 20. Under different circumstances, a 9-point, 16-minute night from your best player would be read as a quiet game. Here, it reads as a warning sign, because nobody plays their franchise player in 3-minute bursts unless there's a real reason behind it. And Stephanie White was working with almost nothing to build continuity around. Whatever this in-and-out plan was protecting Clark from, it also meant nobody on this roster ever got to run real offense for more than a couple of possessions at a time. Kelsey Mitchell tried to be the answer anyway.
She came away with 12 rebounds, but 4 points in 18 minutes. And Kelsey Mitchell, she wasn't hitting anything in the paint either. She was like throwing up chaotic layups, missing them, but she still dropped 29 points, because how many threes did she hit? She hit 5 threes in this game. She went 5 for 9 at the 3-point line. She just wasn't very good inside. She still hit
29 points for Kelsey Mitchell. 5 for 9 from 3, 6 for 6 at the free throw line. And she did almost all of it from the perimeter because nothing was falling for her inside. That's the profile of a player trying to single-handedly keep a game from getting out of hand, while the offense around her has no real point guard running anything. Ty Harris got minutes early and was hitting shots without really orchestrating anything. Raven Johnson took over point guard duties for stretches and had a rough one. 1 for 9 from the field, including a wide-open look from 7 feet that she passed up to drive into a crowd instead. When your two options at the point are a shooter who isn't distributing and a distributor who isn't making shots, 29 points from your two guard is a heroic effort, not a functioning offense. And none of it was enough, because on the other end, Los Angeles found something Indiana simply could not answer.
Time, but again, I think she's going to be pretty decent. And Damaris Dantas, she was in for 22 minutes and she did put down 12 points. The problem with Damaris Dantas is she is slow as molasses and everyone blows by her. But what was so crazy is the fast break points that the Sparks were making. They made 27 fast
break points for the Sparks, 4 for Indiana. That is not a typo either, and it is the single most damning number in this entire box score. Los Angeles was pushing the ball coast to coast, and Indiana had no answer in transition all night. Damaris Dantas played 22 solid minutes and scored 12 points. But in the open floor, she simply cannot recover, and teams have started attacking that directly. This looked, honestly, like watching an older version of this Indiana team. The chaotic one built around live ball turnovers, turning into easy buckets going the wrong direction. And that brings up a bigger question that has been quietly building around this team all season. Is the actual system Stephanie White is running the right one for the player she's supposed to be building it around?
When it's good, but it's not good for Caitlin Clark, in my humble opinion. I don't think this system is built for Caitlin. I think this team looks a lot more fun when Caitlin has the keys, and I don't necessarily think Steph White is a bad coach, but her system and Caitlin Clark's system don't.
I don't think this system is built for Caitlin Clark, and I'm saying that with more conviction after every game like this one. This team looks completely different, more dangerous, more fun to watch, in the stretches where Clark actually has the ball in her hands running things, and in the stretches where she doesn't, or where she's getting subbed after 90 seconds because of a minutes restriction. This roster looks like exactly what tonight was. Confused, turnover-prone, no rhythm anywhere. Stephanie White is not a bad coach. Her track record says otherwise. But a system and a superstar have to fit each other. And right now, those two things are pulling in different directions more often than the Fever front office would probably like to admit publicly. It's not just coaches and analysts saying this either. Sophie Cunningham said publicly this season that the league isn't marketing this roster the way it should, naming Clark, Mitchell, and Boston specifically as the players fans actually want to see put front and center. When your own teammate is saying that out loud, that's not outside noise. That's a locker room that feels like it's fighting an uphill battle even on nights it isn't losing by 14. Tonight was supposed to be a forgettable game against a short-handed Sparks team. Instead, it turned into another data point in a much bigger argument about whether this roster is actually built to protect and maximize the most important player in the league right now.
There's just something definitely off with her. I think this nagging back issue it's a real thing. Now, they did out-rebound the Sparks, even without Aaliyah Boston, but they controlled mostly the offensive rebounds, which there were moments where 3 different people were getting shot attempts and nobody was sinking them, and it looked kind of like a clown show. Defensive.
There's just something off with her, and I don't think it's a coincidence anymore. This has the look of a real, ongoing back issue, not a one-game tweak. And here's the part of the box score that actually proves how much that mattered. Indiana got out-rebounded by exactly 1 board tonight. 1. Without Aaliyah Boston. That's essentially even on the glass. A team that competes on the boards like that, even short-handed, does not normally lose by 14. When the rebounding numbers say one thing and the final score says something completely different, that gap is where you go looking for the real explanation, and every angle here points back to the same 2 problems. A superstar who clearly is not right physically, and a locker room that never got a chance to find a rhythm because of it. I'm not a doctor, and neither is anyone reading a box score after the fact. But you don't play your franchise player in 90-second bursts unless somebody in that training room is genuinely worried. And the timing of all of this, with everything that's been swirling around Caitlin Clark this season, is about to matter a lot more than just tonight's result.
They did get out-rebounded by 1, which I consider pretty even. But to be blown out, to be out-rebounding a team and to lose by 14 points, there are other issues afoot. And the defense was just terrible tonight. They were allowing the Sparks, who were not playing great, they allowed Ray Burrell to come out with 22 points. Ray Burrell. And again, I chalk it up to the team never really...
Ray Burrell scored 22 points tonight. Ray Burrell. A player who puts up a good game every once in a while but is not typically the one hurting you for 20. That's what happens when a defense loses its shape for 40 minutes straight. It wasn't just Burrell either. Nika Ogwumike finished with 24 on 9 for 19 shooting, working through a cold start before catching fire late. Derica Hamby added 21 on 8 for 15. By the time the reserves were mopping up the 4th quarter, 6 different Sparks players had found the score sheet, which is what happens when literally every closeout is late and every rotation is a step behind. Remember, this Sparks team is missing Kelsey Plum, its actual offensive engine, for the whole season, and Cameron Brink was in and out before she ever got comfortable. A full-strength defense does not usually let a team playing without 2 key pieces score 106 points and get 4 separate players into double figures. Whatever was compromising Indiana physically tonight, Sophie Cunningham's back, Aaliyah Boston's absence, and whatever is actually going on with Caitlin Clark, it showed up defensively in a way that a box score full of turnovers can't fully explain on its own.
Yes, but Caitlin did come away with more turnovers than assists. She had 4 turnovers to 3 assists. She also did have 4 rebounds. She did have a steal also, and if there's one thing that I will always know is that I don't think they will ever do the freedom of movement calls for Caitlin fully, really, because there were definitely a couple of fouls on her, but those fouls, even if they had called them, would not save this game.
Let's put the rest of Clark's line next to the 9 points and 16 minutes we already covered. 4 turnovers against 3 assists, 4 rebounds, 1 steal. Unremarkable on its own. But there's one more detail worth sitting with. There were fouls on her tonight that did not get called. And if you've watched this team all season, you already know that's not a one-game pattern. It's been the same conversation for months now. Freedom of movement calls that get made for other star guards around the league seem to disappear whenever Clark is the one getting hit. Now, to be completely fair here, even if every single one of those had been whistled tonight, it probably does not flip a 14-point loss. This was not a game decided by officiating. But zoom out from tonight, and that no-call pattern stops being a small footnote about one game and starts looking like part of a much bigger story that has been building around this player and this league all season. A story that, as of this week, has officially reached the United States Congress. And that is where I need to actually tell you what's been happening, because I've been holding this back on purpose until you had the full picture of tonight first.
Game. They do play tomorrow in a back-to-back, and Caitlin Clark will not be playing in that game. Very glad she's not going to be playing. Really want her to rest up. Don't know what's wrong with her, but I do think something's going on. Aaliyah Boston will be back, and they will be playing the Mercury.
Indiana plays again tomorrow on the second night of a back-to-back, and Caitlin Clark is not going to play. Good. She needs the rest, and whatever this is, a back issue that has now affected her play style for more than one game running, it needs actual time, not another set of 90-second shifts. Aaliyah Boston is expected back for that one against the Mercury, which helps. But the Mercury matchup is not a random detail here. That's the same team and the same player at the center of the biggest controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark all season. None of this is happening in a vacuum, either. Fever games have been driving some of the biggest attendance and television numbers in league history this season. The kind of numbers that pull in new corporate sponsors and prime-time slots. That is precisely why a moment like tonight, and a play like the one coming up in Phoenix, carries weight far beyond one box score. When the league's single biggest commercial draw is the one absorbing the hits, what happens to her competitively stops being just a basketball problem and starts being a business problem for the entire league. Because a couple weeks back, Phoenix forward Alyssa Thomas drove her fist into Clark's throat during a game, and officials on the floor did not call a foul on the play. The league reviewed it afterward and suspended Thomas for one game. Thomas has since said publicly that she received death threats over the incident, which nobody should be sending, full stop, no matter how frustrated fans are with a no call. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert put out a statement condemning hate directed at any player, and that single incident became the tipping point for something a lot bigger than one missed call. Something that, as of this week, has actually reached Capitol Hill.
So we will see, especially after multiple members of Congress have signed a petition calling out Cathy Engelbert on the treatment of Caitlin Clark, and DeWanna Bonner herself had a reaction.
On July 7th, 11 Republican members of Congress, led by Texas Representative August Pfluger, sent an actual letter to WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Not a tweet, not a press conference. A formal letter laying out specific incidents. It states that Clark has been hip-checked, poked in the eye, and struck in the throat during games this season. And it argues the league's officiating has repeatedly failed to hold anyone accountable for it. Some of those specific incidents go back further than the Thomas play, too. The letter references an earlier eye poke from J.C. Sheldon and an off-ball body check from Chennedy Carter in a previous season, which tells you this argument isn't built on one bad night. It's built on a pattern lawmakers say the league has had years to address. The letter goes further than criticism, too. It raises the possibility of a Department of Justice, Department of Labor, or Equal Employment Opportunity Commission review if the treatment amounts to a hostile work environment. And it gives Engelbert until July 24th to answer 3 direct questions about the league's process. The Indiana Fever organization put out its own statement afterward, and it's worth hearing exactly what they said. Their statement read that neither the organization nor Clark had any interaction with this congressional group, and that they were unaware of the letter before it went public, while adding that they have been clear all along about prioritizing player safety. So the team is not out here claiming credit for this letter, and Clark herself has said in recent interviews that she is ready to move past discussing it and focus on basketball. DeWanna Bonner, who spent part of last season on this very Fever roster before an early exit and a move to Phoenix to be closer to her partner Alyssa Thomas, has reportedly weighed in on the letter as well, extending a back and forth between these two camps that has been running hot since the Thomas incident. And reaction to the letter itself has genuinely split people down the middle. Some see it as Washington finally taking women's sports seriously enough to demand accountability. Others are calling it performative, arguing that a dozen lawmakers who've never watched a full WNBA season showed up the moment it became politically convenient. Basketball voices outside the political world have weighed in too. Hall of Fame broadcaster Dick Vitale has been publicly vocal that Clark deserves far better treatment on the floor than she's getting, which tells you this has bled past partisan talking points and into mainstream basketball commentary as well. Both of those reactions are out there in force, and you can find people making each case in good faith. What's not really debatable is the pattern underneath all of it. A superstar who keeps absorbing hits that don't get whistled, a body that tonight was visibly not right, and a league office that now has until the 24th to explain itself. So here's the real question heading into that deadline. Is Caitlin Clark's back tonight actually just wear and tear from a long season? Or is it the accumulated cost of exactly what that congressional letter is describing? I don't think anyone fully knows yet, including the people inside that building. Tell me where you land on this one in the comments, because this fan base is genuinely split. And if you want to be here the moment Engelbert actually responds, subscribe now, because I will be covering it live the second it happens.